In October 2022, the United States imposed sweeping export controls on advanced semiconductor technology, targeting China. The goal slowed Beijing's rapid progress in AI and critical tech by cutting off access to powerful chips like NVIDIA's A100 and H100. US officials believed this would cripple China's ability to train next-gen AI models and preserve America's tech lead. The sanctions were comprehensive, affecting chips, equipment, and software, but Washington miscalculated China's response. Instead of slowing down, Beijing saw the sanctions as an existential threat and a call to action. The move confirmed China's belief that it couldn't rely on foreign supply chains for critical needs. US actions fueled a massive, state-led campaign for technological independence. What was meant to halt China's progress instead accelerated its domestic chip industry. Chinese companies scrambled for alternatives, but the pain quickly turned into strategic gain. The sanctions created a protected market for Chinese chipmakers, supercharging government funding. Beijing's message, innovate or be left behind. This set in motion a determined effort to turn sanctions into a strategic victory, fundamentally altering the global tech race. The 2020 Pakistan Sodergap Dry Mai Showudan Wari Todidasinashin touring sanctions ignited China's drive for self-reliance in technology. Beijing mobilized unprecedented resources, making semiconductor independence a top national priority. The goal built a complete domestic chip ecosystem, from design to manufacturing. By 2024, China's semiconductor sales soared past $200 billion, meeting about 50% of its own demand, up from just 13% a decade earlier. Chinese firms excelled in chip design and manufacturing, with SMIC and Hua Hong becoming global foundry leaders. In assembly and testing, companies like JCET and Tongfu rose to the top worldwide. China's strength now spans the entire semiconductor value chain. US sanctions, meant to contain China, instead forced it to develop the very capabilities Washington sought to deny. The result, a robust, parallel tech ecosystem less dependent on American technology. Beijing's resolve turned containment into a catalyst for innovation. The world watched as China transformed from a tech follower to a formidable, independent competitor. The lesson containment can backfire, fueling the rise of a new rival. Amid China's tech push, Huawei emerged as the national champion. Already hardened by years of US sanctions, Huawei pivoted to become China's primary alternative to NVIDIA. Its Ascend AI chips filled the void left by banned American products, symbolizing China's resilience. In 2025, Huawei began mass shipping the Ascend 910C chip, made by SMIC on a 7nm process, a major milestone. While not as advanced as TSMC's latest, it was powerful enough for China's needs. Huawei built an entire ecosystem around its chips, including software and networking solutions to rival NVIDIA's CUDA. The company's Cloud Matrix 384 system linked hundreds of Ascend chips, matching the performance of NVIDIA's top clusters through scale and smart design. If one chip couldn't match NVIDIA, hundreds could. Huawei's rise showed the power of focusing national resources on a single champion. Its success paved the way for other Chinese firms, proving domestic solutions could compete. The journey from sanctioned target to AI hardware leader is a story of adaptation and defiance. Sanctions meant to suppress Huawei instead made it stronger. China's answer to its tech gap was brute force. Domestic chips like Huawei's Ascend 910C lagged behind US rivals, so China deployed massive clusters of homegrown chips. The strategy compensate for less powerful chips with overwhelming numbers. Cheap, abundant energy and state subsidies made this possible. Local governments offered incentives for data centers using domestic chips, lowering operational costs. Clusters of hundreds or thousands of Chinese GPUs, powered by subsidized electricity, could match the performance of fewer, more advanced US chips. This resource-intensive approach kept China at the AI frontier. China wasn't trying to beat the US at its own game. It changed the rules. Scale, not sophistication, became China's path to AI leadership. By mid-2025, Washington realized its strategy had backfired. China's chip industry was thriving, and full-tech decoupling loomed. The US shifted policy, allowing exports of downgraded NVIDIA H20 chips to China. The new approach managed China's progress, not halt it. NVIDIA was required to remit 15% of H20 sales revenue in China to the US Treasury, aiming to support American chip initiatives. The move tried to preserve NVIDIA's market share and fund US manufacturing, but it was too late. China had already built strong domestic alternatives. Chinese firms still bought H-20 chips, but only as a short-term bridge. The dual strategy used U.S. chips now, but push for self-sufficiency long-term. The policy shift was a tacit admission. The original plan accelerated the very decoupling it sought to prevent. The U.S. found itself reacting, not leading. China was no longer dependent on American tech. The strategic initiative had shifted. The U.S.-China rivalry has split the global tech market in two. Now, two parallel ecosystems are emerging, one led by the U.S. and its allies, the other by China and its champions. Companies and countries must navigate different standards, supply chains, and regulations. Global supply chains are being duplicated, raising costs and slowing innovation. The dream of a single digital world is fading, replaced by fragmentation and competition. China's response to H-20 exports underscored this split. Beijing summoned NVIDIA over security concerns, urging firms to prioritize domestic chips. The message "foreign tech" is a temporary bridge, not a long-term solution. The economic cost is huge. NVIDIA alone lost billions in potential sales. As the divide grows, the world must adapt to a new era of tech rivalry. The US-China chip war is reshaping the global order. The outcome will define economic and military power for decades. AI and advanced chips are now central to national strength. The US relies on sanctions and supply chain control. China mobilizes state resources for self-reliance. This clash is forcing nations to choose sides, creating new alliances, and straining old ones. The era of easy globalization is over. Strategic competition is the new normal. Technology supply chains are now battlegrounds. The chip war is a lesson in the limits of power and unintended consequences. Washington's attempt to hobble China accelerated its rise and fragmented the global order. As of late 2025, rivalry, not cooperation, defines the future. The world's fate may rest on who masters the tiny chips powering our modern lives.